I'm really excited to announce our next presenter. Her name is Lisa Carey, and she really is the expert when it revolves around logistics, anything logistics. Her expertise lies in providing the innovative solutions for manufacturers that are trying to get that competitive edge in retail. With her background in supply chain management, what her niche is trying to find the most cost-effective way to get a product from manufacturing to the end consumer, whether that be on retail shelves, through the internet, really kind of perfecting the packaging and the presentation. So it's the thankless job, as we say. So thank you so much for joining us, Lisa.
Good morning, Joel.
This is the background that not a lot of people really understand or think about when they're creating their product. Everybody's always focused on creating the best product that they have to fill the niche in the market that they see the opportunity in, but nobody thinks about the logistics of the packaging, how to really get that product to market. So what is the biggest mistake that you see businesses make when it comes to selling products either online or in stores?
The biggest mistake, and we all do it, is budgeting. People don't budget for logistics. There is a cost to an inner carton, a master carton, a shipping label, a packing slip, a person that picks and pulls the product. And so let's say you have a widget that costs you $5 to make and you want to sell it for $10. Well, the box is $1.20 and that strip of tape is 6 cents, and paying the FedEx, the little zebra printer for FedEx is $4 a month, and it all adds up. And it's just something that people don't budget for. And I work with many new manufacturers, and that's what they say. I didn't think about it.
Yeah.
And you can lose money. I mean, you can actually have the best product in the world, and if your cost of goods sold does not include all the itty bitty little stuff, then you're going to have a tough time.
Yeah, those shipping peanuts add up. But so how can, one of our members asked a really good question. How can they maximize their shipping if they're sending mixed pallets, so let's say to a distributor?
Okay. Shipping to a distributor, because the margins are lower, so that's a great question. The first thing you want to do is you have to think about this. A pallet takes 16 square feet on a truck. You're paying for that floor space. When you get a shipping quote for LTL, and most of us ship LTL, nobody ships full truckloads because retailers don't want it. 300 pounds is what they base the initial quote on. So what you want to do is you want to find out your receiver, what's their maximum pallet height they can accept. And then you want to, it's almost like playing origami. You want to find a way to stack that pallet as high and as tight as possible.
Okay.
Because you're paying for the floor space. The other thing too is there's something called shipping classes. And if you ship mixed products, let's say you're shipping 30 cases of rocks, and that's a very dense product. That'll ship at like class 55. And then you have 30 cases of plastic shelves to hold the rocks. Well, that's the shipping class of 250. If you don't itemize the two different classes on your bill of lading, the freight carrier is going to knock you up to 250, and that's going to make your shipping costs outrageous.
Okay.
Yeah.
So those little things are really what put the nail in the coffin, so to say.
Yes.
Okay. And let's say, now, correct me if I'm wrong, because this is still, out of my ballpark. There are 4 kinds of shipping, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so can you walk me through each one? I think one's direct to consumer.
Yes, yeah. As a manufacturer with a new product, you're going to have direct to consumer, which is .com or catalogs. You're going to have shipping to a distributor, and that's a base distributor that will sell to a multitude of stores. Okay. When you ship to a distributor, it's usually not very complicated, but the margins are lower, and usually you, the manufacturer, is going to be paying the freight. Then you get into retail, and retail, you would go to a retail distribution center, like a Lowe's or a Toys R Us or a Harmon Drugs for Bed Bath & Beyond. They will pay the freight. That's the only good part about it, because then you have your retail compliance and you have your logistics compliance. It involves EDI. You're going to have a third-party EDI provider. Yep. Most of your retailers want a pallet configuration that never changes. And so what you have to do is you find out what their maximum height is, and you give them a minimum. Say, if we're going to sell to you, my pallet holds 1,000 units, that's your minimum order. Most major retailers have a compliance guide, which is anywhere between 100 and 300 pages. You need to ship it to them how they want it. They will tell you where to put the label. They will tell you how to stack it. They will tell you maximum height. They will tell you if they want corners or an A pallet or a B pallet. All of these things, if you don't follow, result in chargebacks. Chargebacks is a revenue stream for retailers. Lowe's, for instance, 50% of your vendor cart is based on how you get it to their distribution center.
Wow.
Yeah, so you don't want to fool around with that. You want to follow the directions. And if you don't understand the directions, you want to find somebody to help you get through them.
Yeah. I'm taken aback by that because, as I said, this is a different world from us. Then there's a fourth one, right? And I want to go back and cover one thing first. What is EDI for those that aren't in that space yet?
EDI is electronic data interchange. It is the way that retailers will send you their purchase orders. It's the way that you will, through an EDI provider, the retailer, it's a third-party provider. So here's the retailer, here's the EDI, and here's the manufacturer. So the retailer provides the EDI provider with how they want their packages with the UCC 128 label. Does it have to have a PO? It's going to give all the information. You as the manufacturer, when you get a purchase order, you will go in, you will insert certain information, and then you will print out your UCC 128 labels. Through EDI, you will also send an ASN, which is an advanced shipment notification.
Okay.
Some retailers require it within 1 hour after the truck picks up.
Okay. And if you don't do that, you're not in compliance.
You're not in compliance. And yeah, the good news is they do set the rules. And every warehouse, and you have to think about logistics, who the receiver is. So they have spent millions of dollars setting up their own automated systems.
Right.
One thing is crazy, like a company like Home Shopping Network, which a lot of new products launch on. They have a maximum pallet height of 50 inches, which is not very tall.
That's not very tall at all.
It's not very tall at all, but because they utilize a racking system and the way their pick and pack is. So when you start to look at it, how the receiver is taking it, it begins to make sense.
Okay. And it's important to know all these things, way before, because that goes into putting together your packaging, putting together your on-shelf, your displays if you're shipping to a distributor. And there's one other thing, I think you touched on it, but that was the fourth one, is the retail distribution center. So just to be clear, so I can be right on my end, direct to consumer is one, direct to store is the second, direct to the distribution center, and direct to the retailer, correct? Those are the four different kinds of shipping.
Those are the four. And the direct to store, you still have to work through EDI.
Okay.
You still have to do all of the same things. It's very time consuming on an administrative end when you are budgeting for a direct to store program. Because when you go into an EDI system, there's a lot of data entry and you need to make sure everything's correct. Well, it's a lot easier to enter one tracking number for 50 cartons than it is for one carton. And so administratively, ship to store is probably your most expensive program. Okay.
And can you give some examples of numbers on that? So let's say it costs $10 for a product to go direct to consumer. Let's say all in with shipping.
Right.
What kind of numbers can we work back on from there? What would be the cheapest? Is it distribution center or distributors?
It depends what your pricing is.
Okay.
The easiest is a distributor because the distributor has the relationship with the retailer. Okay. So like I said, it's a much lower margin, but that distributor is then in charge of the EDI and the compliance and everything else.
They take care of all that.
They take care of all that. If you can get to the retail, into the retail distribution center, it's a beautiful way to be. but you have to prove your sales to get there. I mean, you have to have a track record. You have to understand, and most people don't look at this, in order for a retailer to add your product, they have to take another product off the shelf. They have to break somebody's heart.
Yeah.
Because there's only so much shelf space. And they will make you pay for it. I mean, there's fees to become a supplier, there's insurance programs, there's specific packaging.
Marketing programs.
I'm working with a customer right now, and they have a new product for Babies R Us, which, that's not the best thing to get into right now.
Right.
But we have to send samples because they want to evaluate how well we package the product. Yeah.
So they really check every box before doing a rollout like that, as they should. And when creating, packaging for that in-store display, what should somebody keep in mind when thinking about shipping the units to the retailer or distributor? What should they think about ahead of time, in the beginning of the process?
Easy. And we're going to work backwards on this.
Awesome.
So the store manager is paid by the profitability of the store. He gets a bonus, or she gets a bonus. How profitable it is, how well the shelves are stocked, employee productivity, and everything else. So if you have a display that's really difficult, that's going to require somebody 20 minutes to refill, or it has to sit on the manager's desk because it has to be put together, it may not go on the shelf. Just because you get into a retail distribution center does not necessarily mean that particular store manager has to put you on their shelf.
That's a great point. I want to reiterate that. So, just because you get into the distribution center doesn't mean that you're on the shelf or merchandised properly, right?
Right.
Okay.
Correct. So my recommendation on displays is, first of all, on the shelf, you always want to go narrow and deep, because you have a better shot of getting on a retail shelf if you're narrow and deep, because it's less work for them to put you on the shelf. Okay. Make it easy. Disposable displays are perfect. Just a thin 18-point display. They can just put the product out there, keep it refilled. The other thing you want to do with your displays, though, if they go to a distribution center first, make sure they're sturdy. They're in an inner carton, they're polybagged, because you've got somebody in a DC that's filling the store level and they're just grabbing it.
Right.
I mean, they're just grabbing it. And so if it's flimsy, and if the distribution center breaks it before the store level, that's a charge back to you, the manufacturer.
That's a great point. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a great point, and not a lot of people know about this, and that's why I'm loving having you on, because you have all the background of all these companies that have learned the hard way about all of this.
Yes.
And the chargebacks really hit the cash flow directly, and that's what kills a business. So what other ways do people get chargebacks that you wouldn't expect that they could prepare for?
One thing I don't think a lot of people realize, and this I'm going to go switch a little bit to ship to consumer, because people, when they're growing their online business, you have to prove your sales ship to consumer before you make it to retail. So it's a necessary step. When you're shipping, everything parcel post, which is FedEx, UPS, DHL, ships on dimensional weight. So if you have a box 12 by 12 by 12, 1 cubic foot, that box is going to ship at 10.5 pounds, even if you have 1 pound in the box.
Interesting.
And there's a formula, which I'm going to share the secret here. Most people don't know, though. It's length times width times height divided by 166.
So that's it. So
That's
length
it.
times width times height divided by 166. I'm going to put it below the video so everybody has it down.
Is your dimensional weight for parcel post.
Awesome.
Now, if you can ship USPS, that's on actual weight.
Okay.
But this is where people get stung, and you want to have a tight as package as possible. But I'm shipping a 2-pound thing, and I keep getting chargebacks on it. The other thing, which people don't realize, if you have a product that can easily break, you can buy shipping cartons. You can buy 32 ECT, which is a lighter carton, or you can get your shipping carton that has what's called the burst seal on the bottom. You usually see it like 200. If you have a product that gets damaged by UPS or FedEx, and it is not in a carton with the burst seal, they don't have to pay the claim.
Interesting. So
Yes.
if you don't have the packaging right ahead of time that you're shipping it in, you may not be covered by insurance for all of those casualties.
Yes.
Interesting. So that could save somebody a lot of money.
Yeah.
I appreciate that share. Is there a difference between somebody selling a product in store versus online when it comes to, creating the product that ships cheaper?
Yes and no. And that's a loaded question.
I think all of them are, but
that's true. That's true. When you're shipping direct to consumer, and this is my opinion, I do run a dropship center for about 200 products. You want the consumer to feel like it's a holiday when they get their gift. I mean, we always use packaging paper, the pack slip is neat inside. You want them to open it and immediately feel the value for what they spent. When you start shipping things just in a cheap plastic bag and then the retail packaging is different. So it's one thing you want to do for your consumer. The other, when you're going to retail, your inner cartons, master cartons, this and that, so it's a lower margin because usually online you're selling close to retail, right. But your expenses are so much more if you package it correctly. The other difference too, and I don't know if you're going to get to this point, but while we're on online, because online is so critical these days.
Yeah. Online
is the new retail. It truly is. And I think we all saw this in the holiday season. When you drive that consumer to your site, whether it is a well-known site or not, it's the same marketing practices. Make it appealing, make the picture appealing, make the features and benefits right there. Don't make them have to scroll down to the other information. Because it is your shot. It is your shot, and it's how you're going to get to retail is to prove yourself there. But marketing 101. Easy for the consumer to understand, features and benefits right there, attractive in the pictures. Spend the money on Google AdWords, spend the money on the marketing programs available. It's tough right now. It's very tough.
It is. And one of our members asked a pretty relevant question. How do they take the cost of shipping and maybe lower it? Because what is the most frequently missed thing that a product can change to save a ton in shipping? Because as you said, the cost is that's the biggest thing right there. And anybody who's shipping a product, understands that. So what can they do to save that money when doing that direct to consumer through, an Amazon or an eBay or what have you?
Well, through an Amazon, and I'm glad you brought up Amazon. Wasn't sure if I was allowed to say it or not.
Yeah, say Amazon.
Amazon FBA is changing the way online is working. And what Amazon FBA is fulfillment by Amazon. And in order to get there, you have to have a Seller Central account and you have to prove enough sales for Amazon to say, okay, we're going to bring it into our warehouse. So you can't just sign up for Amazon FBA. Again, you have to prove yourself. A couple things you can do if you're going to have, if you've budgeted a certain amount of sales and you're on budget, you can look around. You can actually get custom cartons are going to be cheaper than buying pre-cut cartons. And when you package your item, do it in an assembly line. So get everybody out in the warehouse and package 300, 400, 500 at a time. Take it, wrap it in paper, tape it up. So when you go to your pull and pack, you're not paying somebody to walk and get a product, put it in a box. Labor is huge. Labor is a big expense.
And I don't think a lot of people factor that in. So that's a great point. I wanted you to hit that again. Labor is a huge expense to pick and pack to ship when going direct to consumer. Okay.
It's huge. Amazon FBA it's a great way to launch your product. I mean, I can't deny that at all. A lot of my customers, I do their retail part. They're doing Amazon FBA. Yeah. Amazon is tough. Again, do you need it in a reshipper? Can you ship it plain? The nice thing about Amazon FBA is you don't need a reshipper. They're going to package it for you.
And that right there, kind of takes the headache away. But I wish that I could take your brain and kind of bottle it up and deliver it to most of the people I speak to on a day-to-day basis. But what's the best thing that somebody launching a new product, let's say brand new today, because everybody should think about what they do as a startup. Everybody should be constantly innovating, constantly evaluating what they're doing to keep up with the times. What can they do today to prepare their business for success this year?
Budget, and be real about it. I mean, take that label, which is 10 cents. Take your LaserJet cartridge, which is $89. The biggest thing with, and I see it all day long, is not budgeting, not spending the money. Logistics doesn't have a job unless marketing is put into place, because we need to sell to do our job. As simple as it is, it's true. But budget, test things, do a burst range. Call me. I mean, I'll answer questions.
Yeah.
But yeah, and spend the money. Know your competition too, and that's just like a retailer. Know your competition. And decide your business model. Are you going to be the one selling online, whether Amazon or yourself, or are you going to sell to resellers that sell online? Because if you sell to resellers that sell online, you try and do it yourself, then you're competing with yourself.
Right.
That's not a good model.
Yeah, I appreciate that advice. I think that you have such a great, perspective, because, you have the job that everybody has on the back end, and you see the mistakes that people make along the way. So thank you so much for giving your advice. I'm going to include all of your information below.
Great.
Thank you so much for your time, Lisa.
Thank you, Joel.